Okay. Okay, so I have 6:34, so we're gonna call this meeting to order. And thank you, Brian, for joining us. And, so who's going to,
I'll do
thank you,
it.
so you're gonna,
Call to order. So, President Bella,
here,
Vice President Zuka,
Here.
Director Jordan,
Here,
Director Schmidt,
Here.
Director Wheeler.
Yes.
Let the record show that, Council, Catherine Groves is here, and then District Engineer Brandon Lowry is here. General Manager Kat Wolfing is here, Operations Manager Renner Ramirez is here, and Admin Services Director Monique, Madrid is absent this evening. Got a quorum.
excellent, very good, thank you very much, so please stand and, may I ask maybe Director Jordan to lead us into the pledge of allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next,
Sometimes in 1 week.
thank you. Really?
I led it to the city council meeting on Tuesday.
Oh. Were you the only one there?
Well, they came just like, hey, as a former council member, would you like to? I'm like, okay.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I told you there was.
Yeah, well, it's for you, it's for you. Good. Well, you did it so well, so, because you had the practice.
Exactly.
All right, very good. So, we'll move on to item 1D. And just a couple of quick comments that I wanted to pass on. Like we do at the end of every year, you look back and you go like, what actually happened this year? And you go like, a year passed already, and, you know, I didn't do much, but then when you ask other people, and like me, I asked staff, they helped you, and they go like, some of it done. There was a lot that was done this year. So, and, so I, without mentioning, going to a lot of long dissertation or mentioning everything, it's, just wanted to highlight a few important things that we achieved. And obviously, probably, the biggest one on most of our mind is that we were, able to successfully fill the position of general manager, which, thanks to all the council members, all the board members and, staff, and obviously, Kat for accepting the position. Thank you so very much. And for Rena, who helped us tremendously. Rena, I cannot thank you enough for your help, for acting in the position for a long time, and for kind of guiding us also to the operational side of it. So you did, no, you did. Thank you very much. And, we also, achieved a 4-year contract with our employees, which is great. So the president coming after me won't have to worry about it. Thank you very much. We also, when we get the rate increases, we just did the pass-through. We had no rate increases like other agencies had to do and other districts had to do. We did not. We completed the Harbor Boulevard, water main, replacement project. That was a challenge and a half. I know Juven and his staff came in here and told us, well, you know, we found this and we found that, and we were like, Harbor Boulevard? But yes, that was completed too. And also we hired new auditors. We hired also the treasurer, which we hadn't had for a long time after many years with the same treasurer. Now finally have another new treasurer who's working out very, very well, especially he's very, very helpful to the finance committee, we're working on it, so. And, we introduced the 4-day week for the Mid-Peninsula Water District, and there's a lot of rumbling that others are trying to copy it as well. So it's always a compliment when other people copy what you do. And that's a compliment to whoever started first, and so far it has proven to be working very, very good. It's too new, so we still have to find out how that goes, but, and also we have another balanced budget, I understand, so we're good with that. And, yeah, and, you know, we have to think that when we started this year, we thought it's going to be a disastrous year. Remember how we started? We flooded. It was like, you know, I remember exactly when I got the first phone call, and I know, and it was not from the district, but from somebody else down the street, and they're telling us that you guys will probably be flooding. And I am on the other side of the Sacramento Valley, basically. I was there for a wedding. And I go like, oh my God. So what a way to start the year. But not only did we go through that, but the greatest thing that happened was that most of our customers had no idea what we were going through. For them, it was business as usual, customer service as usual, water goes in as usual, phones get answered as usual. And they had no idea that over here it was like, and I always associate ourselves with the busy duck, because the duck, when it's floating, has the smiling face on her beak, you know, but under the water, she's just going like crazy, and that's what happened. Just going about our business, but here everybody was practically trying to find a new space where to operate and do all of that. And we're still going through it, as a matter of fact, though. So great accomplishment. Thank you all so very, very much. It made the job of whoever is sitting here easier, because this is a team effort, and a team is not just the people who are sitting here, but everybody till the newest one that we have hired is part of the team as well. So thank you all so very much. Okay. So those are my comments. And now we're going to take a group photo.
All right.
So, jackets on.
I dressed down for you, Ryan, I wanted.
That's why I
No, no,
recall.
no.
All right, where should we use this background? Do you want the?
So, I'll put the jacket on.
Don't succumb to pressure. Put her name.
You've got a nice jacket, and you do too.
No, that's not a nice jacket, this is just like a windbreaker.
Oh, the picture, you can't tell.
Yeah,
I got
two
it.
men nicely dressed in.
So where should we stand right here?
Just a reflection of the-
Yeah, well, yeah, so if you can kind of center, this to the left a little bit in front of the doors rather than the window, so we don't get the back here.
Okay,
Well, here's the- here's your
Pretend
present.
like you kind of,
Yeah, move that.
yeah, and I'll see if I can get close enough and I can avoid, yeah, that'll work.
You need the Google camera so you can run through that, or
All right, smile. Think happy thoughts. All right, now it occurred to me, we should have had you wearing like life vests and have like oars from the flood.
there you go. So can we take another one with you and Renan with us?
Sure, might.
Please.
Okay.
All right.
Were you getting the table and stuff then, or was it?
I walked close enough to get the.
You know what, you know what?
I know.
Good call.
No litter. One, two, three, four, five, six, that's good, I got a couple.
All
right.
So beautiful.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Front page on the webpage.
Thank you. Good job, guys.
Thanks very much.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so now the dessert comes, right?
We're gonna do the election and then dessert.
Oh, not the dessert first?
It's motivation, so it goes smoothly, right?
You have an agenda in front of you, Louis.
Just kidding.
Follow
Just kidding. All right,
He's
cool.
already moved on.
it. Yeah, we'll just skip the reorg.
So, okay, the most important thing for today is the election of officers for the year 2024. So we'll go as tradition, we'll go with the president first. So I would like to the nomination for president, please. Motion. Or nomination for president.
I would move that Zucker be the president.
Okay, I have a nomination for Matthew, that's second.
Second.
Second, Director Schmidt, thank you very much. So we have a All those in favor, please say aye.
Normally you ask whether I'm interested, but. Protocol.
All those in-
Yeah, I know.
Wait a minute. About 10 minutes ago, we were already talking about.
No, I never said, I'm just saying, you're following protocol. I'm just kidding.
Director
I would be honored. I would be
Director Zucker, would you
honored.
accept?
I would be honored.
You
guys
Thank you
can-
very much. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent, very good. So
That was yours.
this is all yours.
Gotta move my first one.
You can move your stuff.
Right. Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be president. I want to say, probably for the fifth time. I'm not sure that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
The food counting, right?
who's counting exactly? And I didn't do my normal scare tactic of you realize what's happened the last 3 times I've been president. Okay, so,
Ignorance is bliss in that one.
yeah, I know. Off record, I'll fill you in. Okay, so item F2 would be election of the vice president. Do I have a nomination for vice president?
Yes, I nominate Director Jordan for Vice President.
Excellent. Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. Motion and a second. I
Protocol.
was turning over the. Would you, I'm willing to accept the nomination.
I'd be honored.
Excellent. Then all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Excellent. I guess you gotta move again, or we're gonna be on my left?
Oh. Do you want to move over here? I don't know. what
It
to-
doesn't matter. I don't think it matters.
Huh?
It doesn't matter from a legal perspective.
No.
There you go.
All right, excellent. Now, on to the most, Louis said the former item was the most important of the night. I'm gonna say that item 1G is the most important of the night, a break for reception. Rumor has it we have
I
what?
like this president.
Yeah. We have nothing but cake.
Fun cakes, yeah.
Fun cakes.
Congratulations.
All right, yes. Yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
You want to turn off the
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay. All right, we are coming back. I was wondering if I'll try to recess or not, but, item 2, public comment? None?
No,
Okay. Item 3, we, agenda review, additions, deletions, or consent items. Do we have any changes or pulls?
I had questions, but I don't think I need to vote.
Okay, do you want to address them now?
There were questions for the minutes and for the expenditure. Should we jump into those or?
Yeah, let's just address them now, and then we'll skip, I mean, there's nothing on item 4, so then we'll just move into approving the consent.
Okay, no problem with the October, no problem with the minutes, no. For the November minutes, page 8, on the tree, removal. I just had a question, I can't remember, but I asked this question before. Do we have a tree maintenance program?
We do not have a formal tree maintenance program, no.
Okay,
Although we do monthly maintenance that does clearing for fire's sake and
Right.
general, you know, cleanup and.
yeah, we always did that, but we didn't know our trees were a problem. Should we have a tree maintenance program is my question, yes.
Yeah.
It's a good question, and I think we're working towards developing that based on this very detailed report we have. That's identified a number of different issues, so now we're working towards figuring out a program to address all of those, because there'll be a lot of costs, so we'll have to work out and prioritize it.
Okay,
That may be something for the specific plan. Strategic plan.
okay. Right. Great, that's the only question I had on that.
Yeah, Luke?
On that, Brenda or Ken, do we have close or even a rough estimate of how many trees do we have?
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah, that report took a look at 10 properties that we had, and on those 10 properties, they identified 238 trees. And of those 238 trees, there was maybe a couple of dozen, that the arborist said, you guys are gonna need to do something with these, and then 9 of them said you should be removing them as quickly as possible, and those are the ones we brought to you last month and asked to award that contract to Davy Tree.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So 238
38.
trees, okay, it may not warrant to have an arborist to do this, you know, that would be too expensive, but it does warrant to have, maybe a closer look at them because, you know,
It may
something
be
could
something
go
that
wrong,
doesn't
there's
actually
too
come
many of them.
here.
All right, okay, thank you.
And so, yeah, maybe we can have this be an item for discussion, the strategic plan, and then talk about what the priority is next year and all that kind of stuff.
Great.
So we're sort of taking 3 and 5 together. There's no item number 4 in terms of acknowledgements, so,
I have one other.
one other, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
You did say on the, yes, expenditures.
expenditures, page 15. Couple questions actually. At the top was that we spend $9,000 for CSDA membership annually. And all I wanted to know is the staff believe that's worth it? If you do, then I'm satisfied.
I do. They
Okay.
do a lot of work on
Makes
behalf of
sense.
special districts.
Okay, below that, just another question, PG&E, we have a lot of expenditures for PG&E. Have we considered going through PCE, or is it Peninsula Clean Energy, or is that not?
Well, actually, some of the power is brought to us from, Peninsula Clean Power.
Okay, so they're a separate expenditure
It's
somewhere?
not separate expenditures, it's just folded into the PG&E bill.
Okay, great. And my last one was. Oh, yeah, our wonderful attorneys, I see we have a $1,300 retainer fee. I was just curious how that works. Does future work each month get charged against that retainer?
I am not in the best position to answer that question. That would be a Julie question.
Okay,
The way I understand it is that the retainer is intended to cover the board meeting
Yeah.
and the prep for the board meeting.
okay,
And so, and when that time, that takes to prep before the board meeting exceeds, the $1,300, we actually get a credit. You can see that she spent more time, but we only pay the $1,300. So
okay.
that's what
Good.
that
It's
covers.
not just a charge for being our attorneys.
No,
We're
no,
getting-
it's specifically
getting
the
work out.
time related to board, which is similar to how PCD does it.
Great, that's all my questions.
Excellent.
I do need to point out that the special board meeting minutes are doomed because they have the wrong date, so we can't approve those because of the date, so.
So I'm happy to make a motion for, to approve items B and C, I guess, to leave A for later time.
We can bring those back at the next meeting, maybe. We'll approve those in 2024,
They,
someday. All right.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. This is by all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved.
I just comment again, this is such a good way to look at the expenditures. Just.
Well, I'm gonna comment that my eyesight's not as what it used to be, and I have my. So yes, but if we're gonna nitpick, I'm literally going like, so. Alright.
Those wrong things that fall glances.
Yeah, well, you know, I gotta balance between reading a computer screen and seeing far away and like reading size 4 font. I mean, I can't do it all. Okay, so item 6, hearing appeals, we have none. Now on to item 7, which is the MPWD, COPs, no update for this meeting. And 8A, regular business is to receive a report regarding our investment structure. Pass.
I'll let actually Rena introduce this one.
Sure, be glad to. So, you know, every December since I've been here, we've had folks from PARS, the Public Agency Retirement Services Company, provide a report, on the district's programs for OPEB. I always forget what the acronym stands for. It stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. It's a trust fund program under the IRS code, and also the pension rate stabilization program that we have. And with us tonight is Jennifer Meza from PARS, and also Will Rogers, and then Andrew Brown with Highmark Capital. He can talk about some of the strategies that the board has applied to try and improve the program. So I think, Jennifer, typically in the past, you led the discussion from PARS. Are you going to do it tonight as well?
Yes, thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Right. And did you want us to share the presentation or were you going to share?
I can share it here. I need to go to page 18. Oh, I have to go down this way. Whoops, where am I going? Sorry about this. Closer, closer. Okay, so we're almost at the presentation. Here we go. Okay.
All right, perfect. Well, good evening, board president and members of the board. Once again, my name is Jennifer Meza from PARS. Been presenting to you probably for about 11 years now. Along with me is also Will Rogers from PARS, one of the client services coordinators, and as well as Andrew Brown, one of the Highmark Capital Management investment managers. I'm going to talk briefly, just an introduction on some changes that are going to be occurring here shortly. If we go to the probably one more slide. This slide right here shows the different members of the trust team. PAR is, of course, the ongoing administrator and consultant of the plans. US Bank, the trustee, holding all of the assets for the district's account. One change that we are going to be seeing, and we talked about this in the past, is there's going to be a change to Highmark Capital Management. So to give you a little bit of background, US Bank bought out two different companies, one being a PFM. They traditionally are in the asset or general fund asset management world. In addition, US Bank also bought Union Bank, the parent company for Highmark Capital Management. With that transition, US Bank has decided for the time being to go ahead and rename and restructure the portfolio managers that they have bought. And so instead of Highmark Capital Management's name on here, as of January 1st, we're going to see PFM's name on here. And Andrew Brown will continue on. Of course, there's going to be other portfolio managers, as always, that are going to be working with him and assisting with him. If there are any changes to his position or who comes in the future, we'll certainly let you know. But at this time, that is a current change that it's going to go from the name Highmark to PFM. Otherwise, we don't anticipate very many other changes to the district. We just want you to be aware of this, be very transparent about it. That change is coming as of January 1st. With that, I'll turn it over to Will unless anybody has any questions regarding that change. Okay. Go ahead, Will. Will's going to be talking about the assets for both programs and the liability, and then he'll turn it over to Andrew to discuss the investments.
Perfect. Thanks, Jennifer. So on this slide here, again, we can see a summary of the OPEB side of the program. So we can see at the very top, this plan started back in April 2011. The current investment strategy is the Moderate Highmark Plus, which is an active style of investing. Just below that, we can see the investment prior from inception all the way to December 2017 was in a different strategy, the Moderately Conservative. So the district did make that change. On the bottom half here, we can see these numbers are as of October 31st. So you will receive the November numbers probably in the next couple of days or so. But as of October, we can see total contributions little over that $3 million mark. About $211,000 have been taken out in disbursements. Total investment earnings about $611,000. So current account balance again as of October, $3.36 million. We continue to the next page, please. This slide here just shows a historical representation of the different contributions, disbursements, and total assets as of the fiscal plan year ends. I really just kind of want to take a moment on this slide here and just point out the district has done a phenomenal job historically with those year-over-year contributions, and most recently those disbursements as a result of the district being in such a strong funding status for this OPEB liability. So again, just want to reiterate that the district is doing a phenomenal job with those historical contributions year over year. If we move forward to the next slide, please. The next two slides, we look at the most recent OPEB actuarial valuation. These numbers are taken directly from the report provided by Actuarial Retirement Consulting. Looking on the right-hand column is the most recent measurement date, June 30, 2023. As of that snapshot in time, there were 17 actives, 7 retirees for a total of 24 participants under this OPEB program. Moving on to the next slide, please. Again, we look at those same two valuations, comparing some additional information. We'll focus on that right-hand column as that is the most up-to-date information. First and foremost, we'll look at that discount rate. As a reminder, the discount rate is the expected rate of return for the assets, currently set at 5.5%. The total OPEB liability is set at 3.495 million. Fiduciary net position or assets set aside in a trust is about 3.6. So therefore, the district is about 103.9, almost 104% funded. So the district is in a phenomenal position in regards to their funding status. So again, just want to reiterate, we do not see a lot of public agencies with this well-funding status. So just want to emphasize that the district is in a phenomenal position in regards to the OPEB liability. Any questions on the OPEB side before we transition to the pension side?
One quick question, does this affect our ratings or our credit ratings? Being in this good position?
So that may be a district question, but we have heard from many districts up and down California that actually they have seen an improvement in their credit rating because they're in such well-funded status with OPEB as well.
I would imagine it would, I'm totally speculating here, just because I think some of the laws were about putting this liability on our books so that they're visible.
Yeah.
And that was some of the laws that got passed, and that's why then people had to start accounting for it in their balance sheet. So if it improves it there, I would imagine it has to.
Yeah.
But I'm way out of my element on that. I'm totally speculating.
Well, let's not then. How could we actually find out? How do you find out?
I think when we were planning on having a meeting, a presentation from Wolf Hansen, our financial advisor, they could probably, shed some light on this topic.
Yeah, this would be good if we could
Yeah.
quantify it,
That is one of the criteria that they use to evaluate the bond rating, although it doesn't have a significant impact, but it is one of the criteria that is particularly the OPEB funding status for agencies, because that is more self-funded rather than funded. So for example, like CalPERS has their own funding plan that, the district is required to make contributions to, whereas this one reflects what's the term that I'm thinking of? It's like almost like a self-regulation or, self-funding. Basically, you're reflecting the ability to willingly fund the liabilities that you have on hand. So it does go into your bond rating. Like I said, I just don't know what the impact is related to that bond rating. So, but it is one of the factors that they include.
Thanks.
Perfect. If we want to continue on to the next slide then, please. All right, so now looking on the pension side of the program, on the top half, again, we'll see a similar background to the OPEB side. This one started back in February 2018, the investment strategy, as well as the moderate Highmark Plus, the active style. Again, bottom numbers as of October 31st, we can see the total contributions, 1.6 went in, about 1.615 went out. So the remainder is the total investment earnings, about 495,000. So the current account balance is about 449, we'll say 450,000 as of October 31st. We go to the next slide, please. Again, we'll see a similar reflection that we saw on the previous page, except for OPEB, or for pension, excuse me, of course. So we can see the initial contribution, that disbursement taken out back in the plan year end June 2021, with the total assets on that right-hand column there. We continue to the next slide, please. This slide here, we look at the CalPERS pension funding status. This data is taken directly from the CalPERS website. So we'll go ahead and focus kind of on that middle right-hand column, that valuation as of June 30, 2022. This is a report that would have come out most recently around August, September timeframe of this year. As of this snapshot in time, the actuarial liability was about 11.1, assets about 10.4. So the unfunded remainder is about 732,000. So the district is about 93.4% funded as of that June 30, 2022 valuation. So again, a very strong funding status in regards to the pension funding status with CalPERS that the district is in. Very strong. Again, we don't see a lot of agencies in this particular status, let alone, 100 to 90% funded is a very strong status. This account does not, this unfunded liability does not account for the PARS trust. So just keeping that in mind as well too. Any questions on this slide before I turn it over to Andrew to touch on the investments? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Andrew. Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Let me do a quick mic check. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great. My name is Andrew Brown. It's a pleasure to be with you again to give you your annual update on both the OPEB and the Pension 115 Trust. If you could turn to the next page, please. So my presentation is going to cover a couple topics. I'll lead off with just a very brief overview on the economy. Next up, I will share with you the performance for the OPEB plan. In as much as the pension and the OPEB plan are invested in the same investment pool, we can use the performance numbers as also a proxy for the 115 pension performance. Next, I will share with you the current asset allocation for the plans. And then finally, I'll provide a couple quick observations on the investment objective for both plans. So with that, let's start with the economic overview. We have two columns here. The one in the middle is the 2023 forecast, and then the far right column has the 2024 forecast. And as much as we have about 2 weeks left of 2023, not a whole lot of insight is really gleaned from 2023. And if I was being perfectly candid with you, if we were to go back a year's time, in fact, when I was here last year, December of 2022, and we were looking at our crystal ball for 2023, you would not have seen 1.5 to 2% as our forecasted number. You would have seen minus 0.5 to plus 0.3% as our forecast for GDP. In other words, Highmark last year at this time was calling for a recession this year. We did not get a recession this year. We got 2% growth in the first quarter, 2% growth in the second quarter, and then we got a whopping 5.2% growth in the most recent third quarter period of time. Going back in time, we thought we would have a recession this year because the Fed raised rates rapidly, probably the most rapid one-year hike in interest rates in history, going from 0% to 4.75%. And we felt that that would catch up with both business expansion activities and as well as consumer activities, consumer consumption, and neither one has happened so far. But when you look at 2024, you can kind of glean that, we think that while we're not calling for a recession next year, 0 to 1% is pretty modest growth in terms of a forecast for 2024. With that 0 to 1% GDP forecast for next year, we see corporate earnings maybe at a 3 to 5% growth rate. We see unemployment ticking up a little bit. Unemployment right now is at 3.7%. We see that inching up to 4.5% to possibly 5%, although I kind of have my doubts on 5%, but certainly going from 3.7 to 4.5 is certainly doable. Core PCE inflation. Right now, core PCE inflation is at 3.5%. We see that headed downwards to a 2 to 2.8% level by the end of next year. And then with respect to the Fed, we think certainly the Fed has done hiking rates, and they pretty much telegraphed that in a very blatant way yesterday with their Fed members' projections for next year, where the average consensus of the voting members of the Fed is calling for 3 cuts next year. With our forecast for 2024, we're calling between 4 and 5 cuts in Fed funds for calendar year 2024. So if I was to provide a quick summary, it would be no recession, but certainly slowing growth for calendar year 2024 with the Fed. They're ready to cut rates to possibly boost consumption and support employment. Next page, please. All right. So with since these are typically annual updates, my comments may be more focused in that one-year column. And these performance figures are through the end of November. So they are as fresh as I can provide to the district. However, if you want to raise any question on any of the calendar year periods of time here, I'm happy to address anything that you might have. Let me kind of remind everybody here that you'll see black colored fonts for certain rows here. The black colored font on this performance page would represent performance for the investments that we are invested in. And then the lighter brown shaded font would be some type of representative benchmark to compare the numbers against. We will start with the first row, cash equivalents, and here is really our money market investment. If there is one positive silver lining to the Fed raising rates so considerably since January of 2022 is that money market yields are very attractive. Currently, our money market yields 5.2%. And when we look at the rearview mirror for the last 12 months, cash equivalents for the 1 year period, 4.4% rate of return. The opposite effect, though, is felt within our fixed income investments. With the rising interest rate environment pushing down bond prices, our trailing 12-month return for fixed income, 2.38%. Ahead of the benchmark at 1.18%, but basically half of the return of what cash has generated over the last 12 months. The fourth row provides the best news so far that I can offer the committee. 9.38% has been our 12-month return on equities. And really that is highlighted by row 5 with our large cap funds, which is really the bulk of our equity-oriented investments. Our large cap investments over the last 12 months, 15.2% rate of return, which is a bit ahead of the S&P 500 benchmark target of 13.8%. When we look at other domestic equity markets, though, the strong rally so far in 2023 has not really been witnessed. Our mid-cap investments or mid-cap funds, 2.7%. Our small cap investments, less than that, 1.3%. I'm happy to outperform the Russell 2000 benchmark, which was minus 2.5%, but still 1.3%, 2.7%. Yeah, I'll say the obvious. It would have been better to put more assets into the class that returned 15.2%. International hasn't been so bad. International, well, certainly in comparison to 10-year period and longer. Our international investments, 6.6% rate of return for the last 12 months. Really, the only negative outlier would be our real estate investments, the REIT category there at the bottom of the page. Our REIT returns a minus 3.05% over the last 12 months. REITs are certainly facing headwinds, primarily from higher interest rates, which impact REIT financing costs and REIT expansions and valuations for that matter for property. But also a variety of sub-industry classes within REITs, such as office and malls and shopping centers, facing a variety of secular pressures. So a minus 3.05% has been our real estate return. If we put it all together, though, we look at the bottom line, a 5.81% return for the last 12 months, much of that buoyed by the year-to-date return in the column over to the left, 8.7% for the first 11 months of this year. So a bit of a rally from 2022's really low depths that we were climbing out of. But we obviously still have more work to do ahead of us. Any questions on the performance before I segue to the positioning?
Quick comment. Earlier on, you mentioned that slow growth on the GDP, and you said that the projections were lower, correct, than the actual.
Right. So we entered the year thinking that we would have a small recession. So our worst case scenario, thank you. Our worst case scenario, if we were to go back in time 12 months ago, that 2023 assumption would have been minus 0.5%. So we thought, we're going to have probably small negative growth this year.
And the reason for that probably would be the unemployment?
Yeah. So the reason why we called for the recession was the interest rates going up, but the reason why we avoided it, certainly employment.
Unemployment figures.
Unemployment's at very, very low levels. Not to mention, if we sort of look in the rearview mirror for the last couple of years, a whole lot of companies and organizations have increased their wages and salary and bonus in some cases, structures to employees. So employees, whole lot of people are working and making a little bit more money than they were maybe pre-pandemic. And then, of course, there were a whole lot of pandemic, COVID-related, not compensation, but benefits passed out that a whole lot of people banked instead of spent immediately. So they were holding on to these dollars and they're spending them. But I
Okay,
think employment was the main factor.
oh, good. Okay, so and I know I asked this question before. So when you have a situation like this, the unemployment figures were low, which prevented the recession from happening, correct? But the prices of goods went up. How does that jive? I don't understand that.
Yeah, so the prices of goods and services, if and so if we think back to maybe 20,
Skyrocketed, you know?
yeah, it skyrocketed, but I think a lot of that was supply chains and in COVID really stopping on a global basis. Goods, services, the movement of goods and services, and then when economies started to begin to try to rev up their engines, sourcing primarily goods from overseas came to a halt. So there were stories about automobile manufacturers that needed a couple components, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 to make their automobiles. They could not, and then you have a low supply of automobiles. Low supply of automobiles, at least in this case, led to higher prices, right?
Okay, all right, makes sense.
But we've seen when I think about back in the first second quarter of 2021 when CPI consumer price index was over 9%, we've seen that consistently come down to last month's reading at 4% even.
Okay. Very good, right, thank you.
You bet. Yeah, so those are my comments on the performance page. If you could turn one more page, please, to the positioning. And I had to smile. We were at the board finance committee a couple days ago, and I was asked right before turning to this page, do you rebalance the portfolio? And I said, of course I rebalance the portfolio. And then we turned to this page, and in the far right-hand column depicts our positioning at the end of November. And you'll see the positioning was 50% stocks, 48% fixed income, and then at the bottom of the page, roughly about 2% in cash. And I felt a little bit bashful because our rebalanced position for this investment objective for this strategy, 48% equities, 48% fixed income, and 4% in cash, which obviously your portfolio manager did not rebalance at the end of November, but he certainly took care of that the first week of December. And so 48% stocks, 48% bonds, and 4% cash would represent a slight underweight to equities in this environment. A neutral position would be 50. Going into a period of time where we think growth could be 0 to 1%, and valuations are fairly high, and we've had a pretty strong year for equities. We just think it's a little bit prudent to be a little bit underweight equities at this juncture. And that's our current positioning within the plan. The next two, and I think, it is the next 2 pages. It basically says the same story for the pension 115 trust, which is invested in the same portfolio, generating the same rate of returns. And then the next page, if you could turn to that, is the the same 50%, 48%, and 2% asset allocation as of the end of November. Then just the final 2 pages, and I really wasn't going to speak to them, but if you did have any questions, was just the underlying performance for the managers in the pooled investment that we're invested in. This page captures all of the equity managers. And then if you could turn to the next page, please. The top of the page is the REIT fund, that real estate fund that I spoke of. And then at the bottom is are the bond managers that we're invested in. Those comments summarize the main things that I want to discuss on with respect to the investments. Before making just maybe a couple quick comments on the investment objective, do you have any questions on anything that I've just presented?
Not so much a question, just a comment that I remain interested in the climate divestment.
I was going to sit down and turn it over to you for your annual question, Brian.
Well, I assume that's beyond your purview unless there's been a change.
And this is my annual tap dance too. It's when we're investing pension related assets, really first and foremost, our focus is on fiduciary concerns and in getting the best investment return that we can. That's really our primary and only consideration. And we just don't think that we can bring in other side considerations that are very important, that certainly are very important. But just within this realm, we're just focused on investment return and only that. If I was managing your personal trust or your IRA, I'd build your portfolio any way you wanted me to, but here I just can't.
That does bring up, actually, and maybe you said something unique this year, or maybe I just listened for the first time, I'm not sure which, probably the latter. But I mean, this is only part of our investments, right? This is just the retirement and OPEB. So I guess the question would be, well, we speak with the advisors about how we're investing on all of our reserves and everything like that. I don't know that we've had the same, I remember, I know this question comes up this time every single, but I don't know that we've had this conversation when we're talking about where that money's sitting. If we have, then I'm just not recalling it.
Yeah, is that money in equity?
I don't know where it is.
It's all U.S. treasuries.
Is it all?
Yeah,
It's all treasuries.
Yeah, that's going to be in treasuries and maybe some corporate, highly rated corporate issues. I will share with you this quick story. I work for a park district. I manage funds for a park district. Same story that I just delivered to you. OPEB, pension, there is no social considerations. However, they have built into their general fund investment guideline the prohibitions against investing in companies that pollute the environment and whatnot. So within that investment policy statement, you certainly can build in provisions.
Yeah, my understanding is New York City has divested from their pension funds from climate related issues. So yeah, we're having our annual discussion. There's one other place where I have this annual discussion at our strategic planning meeting. So you can save it for that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and just when I was conferring with the board finance group, I just offered some big picture considerations, and I'll just share them with you very quickly. And Will touched on some of this already. Your OPEB funding's at 104%, so that is just very solid. Your discount rate of 5.5% assumed rate of return, it does dovetail with what we would think would be possible with the moderate investment objective. And given that, I mean, you do got to earn something, and 5.5% is not a terribly high bar. And so it does feel great to be fully funded. But I think staying the course with the moderate investment objective would be my investment recommendation to the board tonight. And then with respect to the pension pre-funding trust, It really comes down to time horizon. Here too, you have funded assets in that trust 2x of what your annual expenses are looking at over the next short-term time horizon. And as long as you don't need those assets to reimburse yourself and have a withdrawal plan, I think you can stay the course as well with a 50-50 type of asset allocation policy for the 115 trust as well. That's what I shared with the finance committee. But I'm open to any dialogue or questions that you might have on that.
Any questions? Any questions?
I do have one question, might be not that easy to answer, but 2017, we moved from moderate conservative to moderate, accepting a slight increase in risk. Did we get more out of that? Are we better off financially now because we did that change?
In that 5-6 year time horizon, moderate outperformed moderately conservative. I'd have to, and I'll be happy to do a follow-up number crunching exercise, but yeah, I can do that. But just knowing that you would have had more in stocks outperform bonds. I can give a quick answer. Yes, you did, but yeah, I mean, it's right there. Okay, look at the 5-year horizon. Equity is 9.07 and fixed income 1.01%.
Oh,
So you'd have had 20% more of your plan assets getting 1% rather than the 9%.
good decision, you guys. Preceded me. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So that's what's in the resolution for the board. Resolution 2023-40 is to stay the course. If you look on page 21, the last whereas near the bottom of the page basically reflects that we are recommending the board stay the course as per the discussion that we've been having with the folks from Powers and from Highmark Capital.
Great. No questions. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
I so move.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second to approve resolution 2023-40. Roll call vote.
Yes, Director Vella,
Yes.
Director Schmidt,
Yes.
Director Wheeler,
Yes.
Vice President Jordan,
Yes.
President Zuka.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, excellent. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank
For
you,
11
folks.
years, apparently.
Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Happy
Happy
holidays.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Okay, on to item 8B, information report on plans to open up a money market account.
All right, so this is another item that we met with finance committee and went over in more detail. It was mentioned in a couple previous board meetings. And unfortunately, Monique couldn't be here tonight, but the work and the background work on this. But so we fairly recently got connected with some well-engaged representatives from Wells Fargo who helped take a look at our account and all of our options. And they identified that there is a high, interest-bearing money market account that we could attach to our checking account. It's basically a sweep account that, sweeps back and forth and basically functionally acts like our checking account gets high interest from, our perspective. And so when they looked at just, snapshot, they looked at September. So with the amount of money that we had in there and the interest rate at that time, if the money market account would have yielded about almost $5,700 for that month. We have a number of fees for the services we use from Wells Fargo, like our lockbox account and whatnot. So, obviously those fees have to be paid. The interest that month would have offset those fees entirely, and we would have had revenue of a little over $2,200 that month. Of course, the interest rate changes with the market, but that's what it's looking at right now. So given that, it seems like you know, a pretty clear, benefit to us to do that. The finance committee had a few questions, which are summarized here, that we followed up and answered on. Is there a minimum balance required for the account? No, confirmed. There is no minimum balance. Are the funds FDIC insured? No, but, and this is a quote from our Wells Fargo rep, the funds are not FDIC insured, but they are invested in high quality short-term securities that are government backed, such as US Treasury bills, which are collateralized and liquid. So they're pretty comfortable, pretty safe. Also the question came up of how much do we really keep in our Wells Fargo bank? You know, it obviously fluctuates a fair bit as we're getting our, you know, customer utility bills in and paying out. But on average, over the last 16 months, it's been about $924,000 per month. So this is, you know, intended to be an informational only item. If you have questions or any major concerns, of course, we want to hear that, but there's no action request at this time.
And just sort of as a matter of process for disclosure to the rest of the board, when Louis and I met on this item on the agenda setting meeting, it was originally proposed as a resolution. And I think we didn't feel like, I mean, we don't use informational items often. Having excessive approvals and paperwork and resolutions for this kind of stuff didn't make a lot of sense. So we recommended that this instead just be an informational item, ditch the resolution. If anything, a resolution may be approving an overall formal policy or plan or how we're gonna manage our money would be appropriate, but we'll think of a checking account, it felt like. So, I just wanted to sort of mention that out loud, and, obviously, if anybody wanted to talk about that item and the structure, we could as well, but to us, it felt like the informational approach is appropriate for this, and probably is a tool we could use more and do fewer resolutions, but on a case by case basis.
And related to that, we're also working on developing a comprehensive financial management plan, which will be coming to the board, which will take a, you know, total look at, you know, our investment policies and what accounts we have and all of that, so.
And that'll have a work.
Yeah, that definitely.
All right, and, yeah, go ahead.
Good question. Ken, I don't know if we actually talked about this. Did Wells Fargo ever give us a reason why they're not FDIC insured?
I don't think they gave us the reason, no.
Did they
That's-
ask?
That's actually just kind of the nature of this investment, because these are swept over every day into basically an investment account. Investment accounts are not, so FDIC insures basically checking deposits, savings deposit, but not investment deposits. So that's what, so these amounts are swept over to a money market fund that are then basically invested into these, you know, just whole like suite of investments that are not under the FDIC jurisdiction.
Okay.
But our current checking account is also not FDIC insured.
So the checking account, so the checking account has two components to it. It is FDIC insured up to the 250,000, but California law also requires us to have a collateralization agreement with the bank that collateralizes 110% of our deposits within the bank's investment portfolio. So our savings and checking deposit are fully collateralized and or insured based on those statutes.
Okay,
Yeah, it's $250,000 for sure. Yeah.
well, the feds do the $250,000, but they are privately funding an insurance policy
For
essentially
the rest, yeah,
for the rest of it.
10%.
Yeah. All right, that's it for me. Thank you.
Questions? All right, hearing none, let's see, item 8C, Bosco update.
Oh, yes, the Bosco update. This is from the November meeting. So I'm gonna rely on notes, because it's been a while.
Not memory.
Not memory, no, notes. Oh, yeah, so Bosco at the November meeting kind of celebrated the 20th anniversary. So Bosco has been organized 20 years ago, following the kind of the solution of the BAWA to the Bosco and all of that, you know. But it was a very nice event that we had there. We had a lot of state speakers from the state, like, Diane Pappin was there. And, someone from the office of Congressman Mullen was there, Senator Jerry Hill was there. And they all spoke about the history of water in California, the history of Bauska, how it started, and obviously, Pappin, her father was extremely instrumental in putting this thing in motion. General manager, SFPUC general manager, Herrera was also there, so they all spoke, so. And also, Art Jensen came. Art Jensen, we all know Art Jensen, he was the first CEO of Bauska, and he started from Bawa to Bauska and all that, so. Anyway, so that was pretty nice, to have this, anniversary kind of commemorated and celebrated. Let's see, what else? This was a very important change that we have done now. With the Bauska meetings are going to be transmitted live. From the January meeting on, they will be transmitted live. Which means that anybody in their household could actually follow what's going on as it happened. And we started doing that as a beginning as a trial, so to speak, yesterday when we had the board policy committee. I tell you, it was a Zoom, because there was echoing from here and it's sounds coming from, I don't know where, it's squeaking and squealing but anyway, but eventually towards the middle of the meeting, they kind of tweaked it to a point where we had a pretty decent meeting with people from remotely were able to talk to us, so we'll see how that's gonna go, but the meetings will be will be available through audio and video for those who want to follow up. Questions will be asked only in writing by those, the public is still invited to come. So, but questions will be from those that are present, because otherwise there will be no end to it, people calling from all over. So we'll see how that will go. From the first meeting that we had, we did not have too many people who were kind of tuned in. So we cannot really gauge it well, but we'll see how this is gonna go, because, as you probably know, as I've mentioned many times during those meetings, the Tuolumne River Trust people are always there, so there's gonna be more of them present and remote, so we'll see how that's gonna go. Let's see, the board adopted the consent calendar and something that is of importance. Okay. And yeah, Steve Ritchie gave the water enterprise provided the supply condition update, and update from SFPUC as he normally does, which Renee, you're going to talk about that too?
Yeah.
Later on, okay.
Yeah.
And then there was an update on the negotiation of the tier 2 drought allocation and the report on the development of strategy 2045. And the subject always comes in as to when desal is going to be part of the 2045 plan. It looks like they're looking more into it, SFPUC is, but it's still years away. But it's in the horizon anyway. It's not like the portion, like forget it, it is in the horizon. Was update on the Bauska flood intervention and litigation of the state board adoption of phase 1. Bauska argued that in the development of the Bay Delta plan, the state board failed to consult with and consider the recommendation of local agency. The state board failed to effectively consider the economic impacts and the needs for developing housing in the region as required by law. And the state board failed to adequately evaluate substitute water supply options evaluated by SFPUC in the water planning document. So with that, the judge ordered the separation of the litigation into merits phase and potential remedies phase. So this change will extend the time for final decision potentially till midsummer. All right, and for the adoption of phase one plan for the state board is moving forward with the implementation, including adoption of the initial biological goals for lower San Joaquin River flow objectives. And for phase one voluntary agreement, the state board initiated the CEQA review in May, and the review is ongoing. And those were the major points. And then we consider the compensation for the adjustment of the CEO for the pay, and the CEO got a 4.6% increase. So that was basically the main thing. And then we went to the water management.
Yes, we did. So covered a lot of that. One thing, so Steve Ritchie was there and spoke, I don't remember, I mentioned last meeting, but SFPC had previously told us they weren't expecting any rate increases for the next few years after the two fairly large ones we just had. Well, now the story has changed to, it's going to be a non-zero number. And they anticipate giving us a range as they typically do in December. We haven't seen that yet. And we're not sure what it is in April. So that we're anticipating some increase. I'm hoping it's on the low end since we thought it was going to be zero, but it is what it is. Bosco talked about something I'm very excited about. They've been working with CalWEP to look at what it would take to develop a certification program for plumbers and landscape professionals, centered around properly identifying leaks. It's a problem that we see with customer complaints and we see in other agencies where, AMI identifies a leak, tells the customer hires a plumber, they come out, they twiddle some knobs, and they say, you don't have a leak, you got a bad meter, tell the water company the meter's bad. And that's not the case. It's usually a toilet flapper valve. It's always a toilet flapper valve with a lot of water passing through it, and the plumbers they don't know. I'm sure if they knew, they would happily charge to fix it. But it's a really common problem. Same with landscape professionals finding leaks. So, working on potentially, finding the right entity to really develop that program certification so that we could then, when customers have that, we could refer to a list of certified people who've gone through the training. So I'm hopeful, it's going to be years out before that exists, but I'm super hopeful and very glad that they've been working towards that.
Who's doing that?
A partnership with Bosca and CalWEP. CalWEP is the California Water Efficiency Partnership. It's the successor their group to what used to be called CUIC, the California Urban Water Conservation Council. So, but group funded by agencies like us. So.
I never heard anybody try to sound that out of the words. Yeah, it was always CWCC.
I was in CUIC.
Mm.
But, so that. And then the other thing is, as for the managers meetings, we had, our 16th monthly tier 2 negotiations meeting, which, it's starting to get real. It's starting to, at the same time, get closer to real decisions to be made. And at the same time, a little bit farther away as the people with the minimum purchase, agreement or issues start to dig in. So it's gonna be a ride, but not for lack of time and effort spent, so we'll see. But those are the main updates.
All right, when was that, the meeting?
Last Thursday was the managers meeting, and this Monday was the tier 2 meeting, and last Thursday. was
Okay,
the
all
managers
right,
meeting.
because when you start talking about the rates, I was going like, wait a minute, I thought it was in my notes, how come?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, this is November.
Bad notes.
The December
No,
meeting.
because I'm
The
putting on the November. The rates I would have put it here, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right,
Any
so
questions on the?
they're still talking about maybe an increase, right? There will be
They
an
said there
increase.
will be an increase.
Yeah,
We
a
just-
non-zero.
We don't know the scale yet, so,
Okay, all right, okay, cool.
but I should have the range next month for you.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just, I'm sorry, Liz, could you repeat what you said about desal with, in terms of?
Oh, that's for the plan for the 2024, the 2045 plan. 2045 is what the alternative water supply is, and desal has almost never made the grade, like we should go for other conservation, but desal now is being mentioned every time.
We're doing a one water plant in Palo Alto, and it's like, we're looking at where desal is penciling out to the other options and going, that's gotta be wrong. That can't be wrong, like, you know, forget the fact that it's a 30-year project to actually build, but when you do it on a, like a per acre foot cost of water, and you're comparing it across the other options, it is a lot cheaper now. You just have to go figure out how to get it approved.
Yeah.
But from an actual cost standpoint, it's not as bad as it used to be.
Cheaper than purifying wastewater.
I'm not sure, I don't know the actual scale of options. It's cheaper, it's penciling out to be almost as inexpensive as pumping groundwater in
As
Palo Alto.
affordable, as affordable.
Because, yeah, because we pay Valley Water so much money for pumping water. So, it's not as cheap as San Francisco water, it's more expensive than San Francisco water, but for all of the other advanced treatment options, it's penciling out. I don't believe it personally. I mean, 30 years of doing this, it's always the most expensive option by, a mile. And it's their neck and neck this go around.
I think it's 3 times saltier than wastewater.
Yeah.
It's gotta be harder.
Yeah, well, a lot of times they'll take brackish water, or they'll do it in the South Bay, or they'll do different things. You know, like, over on the East Bay, there's a brackish water desal that they do, but I agree, it's penciling out in Palo Alto too, for some reason.
To your point, I mean, wastewater is in the mix as well, you know, it's not like desal over wastewater. Wastewater is there, probably still ahead of desal,
Yeah.
but desal is kind of coming up, you know, so. Yeah,
Thanks.
Very good. No more questions. Item 8D, see report on California Regional Water System.
Yeah, so the first thing up on the screen here is just a California drought map, and of course, we're still looking really good, and we're just starting our water season, or rain season, started in October. The next slide is just the reservoirs, and I think it's interesting to see that the reservoirs, there's that green horizontal line in all these bar graphs here. And that green line represents the average water content in the reservoirs over, the history of the reservoirs. So you can see most of the reservoirs are still above that green line, just meaning that there's just been so much water that's come out of the watersheds and into the reservoirs that most of them still are higher than they would normally be on this particular date and at this time of year. The rain information, not much to report here other than, again, the cities in the southern part of state, picking on Bakersfield here, and LA airports, San Diego and Palm Springs. You remember Tropical Storm Hillary went through there like in August or September and just dropped a lot of rain right over it. And in fact, I mean, you look at Palm Springs, they almost got their entire season of rain just during that one rain event. It's still showing on this update to this precipitation data table here that I prepared, trying to capture some of the major cities that we might be more familiar with. So it's still having an effect in Southern California, but really haven't had much rain yet. Sounds like starting next week, we're gonna start getting some rain in the Bay Area, and hopefully it translates into snow into the Sierra Nevadas. The regional water storage conditions, I've got 3 years of water storage conditions. The furthest left column is current. Well, the 4th of December, 2023. In overall, the total regional water system, very bottom, the yellow boxes, we got 1.3 million acre feet in storage in the Tuolumne system and their local system. And then the middle column is last year around the same date, December 5th. And you can see again in that very bottom row that the total regional water storage was 932,000 acre feet. So we have about 400,000, almost 500,000 more acre feet in storage this year compared to last year at the same time. But compare that back to December 2021, you can see back then, we had a little over 1 million acre feet. So you can see how dry, 2022 was, where the amounts of water in the reservoirs just was depleted. And thank God we got all that rain, this past year. The use, of course, in the regional water system, the deliveries are starting to go down. It's kind of typically trending this time of the year. We see that happening. I think it was like 164 million gallons a day was like the average deliveries in the regional water system. So it's not unusual this time of year. And so what's happening in our community, this next slide is similar. Though you'll note on that far right-hand side, the amount of water that we used in November 2023 was 15% more than the year before, right? So I think people kind of got the idea that, you know, we went from a level 2 to level 1. And so people saying, okay, there's more water we can use, and I'm sure people are irrigating more. We've seen a little bit of an uptick in our sales of water supply. The residential per capita in November was 54 gallons per day per person. And then it's just last slide is just the cumulative total. So the green line is what's actually taking place in the system. You know, we're a little over 1 million units of water. Remember, a unit of water is 148 gallons. Normally, the 5-year average, you know, we're at 1.1 million. So we're down quite a bit compared to 5-year average. That totals to about 12% less. You know, for 2023, our customers have used about 12% less than the 5-year average. And again, I think that we're gonna end up, you know, probably under 1.1 million units of water when we bring this back to you guys next month to show you what the total was for December. I don't have some of the other information because the SFPC meeting with the WMRs last week, the presentation wasn't, you know, ready for me to borrow some of the slides, but I did just pull a couple of slides up and I just have it here in front of me. You know, the Hetch Hetchy precipitation, I like to show that it's just not as much, that it's down below where it was last year and actually down below 2015. So hopefully with the rain that we're going to get here in the middle of December, starts to get the precipitation up on the Hetch Hetchy, which translates hopefully into snow, you know, be above the median, the 30-year median, because right now it's well below it. So the same thing would be the snowpack. The snowpack right now in the Hetch Hetchy system is below the 30-year median, just because we haven't had much rain, but hopefully things are going to be changing this month. So that's what I had to share with the board. And we'll see what happens in December, and we'll just make this presentation again next month. Anything pick your curiosity that I can answer for you?
As far as the snow level at the upcountry, we are actually below last year.
Yeah, I mean, what they reported last week, we're slightly below the 30-year median. You know, it's just starting out to be a slow snow season so far. But again, I just don't think that there's been a lot of rain up there. So, you know, hopefully this month will be a lot wetter and a lot more snow up there.
But since we had, you know, the ski resort opened so early this year. And then, no, we had some real snow and then some.
It just depends on where the snow falls. And so I know you know, they have pillows all over the place. And so this is the information coming from the SFPUC, you know, and maybe again, so you're right. I think Jubin was telling us that there was snow up in the Tahoe area because he loves to ski. So it just depends on where you're at.
You know, opened right away.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but what they're reporting is just not a lot of snow yet.
I rented a little bit with man-made and it was easy to maintain. It was way before Thanksgiving, like in the beginning of November. But then you're right, you know, we haven't had much rain since then.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But it depends on where the atmospheric rivers end up going. They're staying up in the northwest, except for that one that went down in Southern
The
California.
one that got away.
The one that got away. But even within California, they've all been staying farther north.
Right.
Correct.
They were getting a fair amount of rain
Yeah.
you know, north of Sacramento and Upper Tahoe Basin, type of thing.
Well, hopefully this next week won't be a savior.
We'll start helping out. It'll look a lot better. The picture will look a lot better next month.
Other questions? Well, general manager's report.
Yes. So I attached, to the back of my report, a certificate we got from Aqua JPIA for receiving a low ratio of paid claims and case reserves to deposit premiums, that they calculated for the property program. So through, 2022, so, it's nice to get that recognition. Not that,
Something tells me we're not gonna get it the next cycle.
yeah, I think. Our streets are looking good.
That little claim for last January.
Well, see, that's through, June 30th,
It's called
2022.
conveniently
Right.
drawing a
So
line in the
next-
sand,
yes.
it's still more than Lord.
Yeah, but, nothing.
Congratulations.
So, among the, variety of things looking at in terms of, exploring, specifically all possible permutations related to, their operations center and location. I heard some whispers that maybe the county might have some property that they weren't using near us, potentially. So I reached out and I spoke with, the real property manager for, San Mateo County and their real property services office. But she confirmed that the county does not have any land that's available to sell or lease to us. In fact, they're having the exact same issues we're hearing and seeing elsewhere. Definitely hanging on to any property that they do own, the leases that they do have, they're having to renegotiate and sometimes losing them just because the costs, especially for industrial type space, is just so expensive. So tried to, track down that potential option, that potential lead, but it didn't go anywhere. One little kind of legislative update, DWR just started, initiated, rulemaking to actually change the requirements for the model water efficient landscape ordinance. This is something that they were talking about for years. It's kind of acknowledged that there is a number of flaws in the way, the MWELA language is written at the state level, including just text in there that's, like recommendation language that is not actually legally allowed to be in a regulation. So it needs some cleanup and some work. And so it looks like they're finally, starting to head towards that. It means ultimately, we're likely to go through the, update process and wanna, update an ordinance in the future. But just a heads up, if you hear anything about that, that's what's going on. One really fun thing, we celebrated, Chris Michaelis's 30th anniversary, with really great food and Chris's favorite music, which happens to be heavy metal, so there's.
His mother was here too.
Yeah, his mom came, his kids, a lot of, his brother, bunch of family. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And actually Missy organized this really great game of Family Feud that pitted, his family versus his work family on Chris trivia, as well as, some general trivia as well. It was a really good time.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, we also had our white elephant, gift exchange and potluck. Everyone was here doing that, and that was great as well, to get everyone together, just to, get some silliness. I won some card game, or I got my gift, I got some card games. Rena got some Lego,
What was the best gift?
the drone.
Oh.
Someone buys a drone from Home Depot, because Michael was actually, he did it last year, did this year, and it's the first one to get stolen and the first one to like max out on the steals, so. That was the most popular, and the second most popular, kind of surprised me, were two little, battery operated smoothie makers, and just a pack of 2 smoothie makers, in case you need 2 smoothie makers. That was.
This
me.
one's not enough.
Yeah, so. But it was good. So, and then, of course, if you have any questions about anything else on here, just let me know. Oh, actually, there's one other thing I meant to mention, that actually happened this morning. It was like a long day. So if you recall, pre-COVID, we had a pretty active San Mateo County chapter of the CSDA. I think I recall maybe 10 years ago going to a meeting with you where you were at but they used to meet, in the
Oh, right.
evenings.
Over on the.
Mostly it's Sequoia Healthcare District, and we used to meet further north someplace.
Yeah.
But it, kind of died off during COVID. So, there's an effort to get that woken up again. So they had the kind of really first initial meeting. I think there was only like 8 of us on the call. They're gonna schedule a subsequent meeting, in the evening by Zoom to talk about getting it going, electing a president, interest. So I will let you know when that gets scheduled, and if anyone wants to participate.
That's for the
you're
local.
welcome. That's for local county one, yeah.
You don't have president?
I forget the previous president, why they're not involved, or the previous vice president, still exists.
It's kind of-
We were going through the bylaws and realized that, they only, members in good standing can, elect the president, and literally no one is in good standing because no one's been paying dues, because no one's been doing anything, so it's like, we gotta, but we did today that, 8 of us, elected an interim president for the intent of getting it going, and so that's, Jim Pruitt from the, Harbor District. So, and he's organizing the next meeting, and one of the first, items they intend to do is, get together the candidates for Anna Eshu's office, and put together a forum where we could, especially could engage with them, and
The fire district are still involved in this.
there wasn't anyone from the fire district on there today, but there was only a couple of us, so, and I think got a lot of feedback that it just wasn't a good time, so hopefully in January in the evening, there'll be a lot more participation.
Thank you. Renner, operations report?
Yeah, on this first page I have up here on the screen, under projects. One of the things that we got out of the water main assessment, of using that robotic device from the Hallmark, not from the Hallmark. Well, from the Hallmark tanks down to the tunnels pump station, is we got GPS locations of that pipeline, right? I remember when I first got here, we actually, a few of us went out along that pipeline and we put some stakes in the ground saying, hey, this is where the pipeline is, right? So when we got some of that GPS information from that robot, we found out that in some places we were off maybe as much as, 15, 20 foot. So we're talking with Jubin, and we're gonna hire a surveyor to take that GPS information. So I'd go out there and actually mark the pipeline, and then staff's gonna go back out there and put some markers on that pipeline, so we know exactly where it is. And then you may recall, maybe not, but in that report, it was mentioned that there are some high points in that pipeline where there's some trapped air in there. And so, one of the things that we've done is we've gotten permission from the SFPUC. They've given us a permit to go out there and stake that. I think Michael said too, that it's also gonna allow us to go in there and put in these air relief vacuum type valves so that we can get the air out of there. Because without doing that, sometimes you're pushing a lot more energy to try and push that water. It's fighting that air in there. So it took Michael a while to get the permit from the SFPUC. They're not reluctant, but they have a lot of hurdles to cross before they'll give you that ability to go on the property, because the watershed, they're trying to keep Crystal Springs clean. And then under maintenance, last month we were talking about you can see here the meters again, that we're replacing some of our AMI meters and so on. And you folks had some questions for us. So Kat and I were talking, and I put together a list of some questions to staff too. So we're still formulating that. We talked about next year early, come back and make a more formal presentation about how our AMI system works, how old some of our meters are, how much do they cost, those types of things, so that you all have a better idea of how that works. So we'll do that. We didn't forget that. We're just not ready to do it, in December. But also under maintenance, I'd like just to let everybody know how busy we are marking our utilities. So we had 291 requests during the month of November. Through November, actually, no, it's a running 12-month. We've had 3,101 location requests, November to November, which is an average of about 258 per month. So, I mean, it just keeps us busy. We have a person just doing it all the time, working on location requests. And that's all I wanted to point out, unless there was something in here that caught your attention that raises a question for you.
No? Or you have one?
Yeah. Right here we have inspected, cleaned, disinfected, and placed back in service. Hallmark with Belmont, Edgewater, and Buckland. How on earth did you do all of that?
A lot of work. I mean, it hasn't been unusual during this time of the year. we have issues with nitrification, and it's telling us that the water's just sitting in our system too long. So it hasn't been unusual for us here recently that we'll take some of these just tanks out of service just so that we can keep water fresh in there. And so that gives us an opportunity to inspect the tanks. And so we actually hired a contractor to go in there, working again with Jubin's office, to take a look at 4 of these tanks, because most of our tank sites have at least 2 tanks on them. So one of the tanks was empty.
You drained 4 of them?
We drained 4 of the tanks. We try to use up all the water that we can in there, and there might be still a couple foot left, and we'll have to waste that water, but we just don't waste it all. And then after there was an inspection done of these 4 tanks, and we were talking about that today with Jubin and Brandon, and come up with a capital program. We're gonna need to introduce eventually a capital program to go in there and recoat the interior of those tanks, right? Just depending on their age and their condition. So one of the things that we did is, again, those 4 tanks, we had a consultant take a look at them, just kind of give us an idea, and they prepared a report on those 4 tanks. So once we got those tanks emptied, they were inspected by this consultant firm, then we disinfected them. We hire a company to do the disinfecting of the tanks. Put water in there and let the disinfectant do its thing. Then we take several samples, and then, eventually we get the tank back in service. So what we're doing now is working on getting the other tank, right? There's a sister tank on that site, empty eventually, not necessarily right now, but we want to get those tanks inspected as well, just so we have a real good picture of the interior coating, especially in these tanks, because it's been a while for some of them.
Yeah. And, one more thing I want to ask is, now that we've had AMI for a number of years, and now we're seeing a lot of these meters stop working, registers, weak batteries, replacement of batteries, transmitters. Is it because their lifespan is kind of nearing the
Keep
replacement?
in mind that there are some AMI meters that we've had in the ground for almost or more than 10 years. I mean, there were some in the ground before I got here, and I got here in 2015.
Yeah.
And then in 2019 is when we put the rest of the system, into the AMI. So any meter that is still within the warranty period, the register and the meter, it's going back to the manufacturer. And they've been working with us. But so we're still working through some of those, but I mean, some of these, there might be some of them, and I can't tell you how many of them are just meters that are beyond the warranty period. I'm just getting the information from the staff saying, yeah, we are dealing with them because, all of a sudden we'll get an AMI meter that's just not sending or recording any information. It's sending a signal, but there's nothing with the signal, so we gotta go out and find out, because that's revenue to us if we don't know what our customer's using. And then after that, we start digging into it, finding out what's going on, and how old is the meter, and is it a register thing, is it a physical meter thing, is it a telemetry thing? It's, and so that's the type of thing that we're just paying a lot more attention, because we've got 8,000 of these things in the ground.
And how quickly usually do we realize that something is?
Oh, we get reports all the time. We get reports all the time. So again, that's something that we're working on a constant basis, trying to stay on top of it, because again, it's a revenue thing for us.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. All right, thank you.
One quick question. The hydrant maintenance and valve maintenance, we're looking at 20%, 10%. Is that enough?
We would like to do more, and actually with Michael is a supervisor out there. He's just putting more emphasis on trying to have, the staff take a look at the hydrants and the valves. I mean, it's a good idea to go out there and exercise the valve, so that when you do have, let's say, a water main rupture and you want to go shut off a valve, you have pretty good confidence that you're going to be able to close it down, because it works, right? There's lots of times that you don't exercise them. In fact, when they were doing some of the work here on Ralston near Elmer, that's a segment of our system that's the oldest. It's like from 1939 or whatever. And so Chris Michaelis was out there trying to shut down that valve so the contractor would work on it. Well, he broke something cracked with the threads. I'm not sure what it was. We didn't know, because we knew we were going to abandon it. But something happened, and it's because that valve probably hadn't been exercised in a long time, so things happen, so you want to get out there and do it. I mean, if we could get out there and exercise all 2,780 valves, we'd like to. We just don't have that kind of staffing. And but we are trying to make an effort to get out there, maybe visit each one of them once every 5 years, we haven't hit that mark yet, but we're trying, we're trying to get out there. And the hydrants, we just want to make sure that, they're painted and they're cleaned up. So again, if the fire department needs to go out there, they can count on that fire hydrant, opening up. We haven't had any issues that we've heard from them, but, it's our responsibility to maintain the hydrants, not the fire department.
What is maintaining? What do you do?
With the hydrants, we just basically go out there and, if they need to be painted, we paint them. We clean up weeds around them. We make sure that there's plenty of clearance. So, lots of times people will start planting things around there, and in our standard specification says there has to be 3 foot of clearance around the hydrant so the fireman or fire person can, get their wrench and open up that hydrant and have a clear path, when they try and open it up. So it's things like that we look at,
Yeah, exercise the valves themselves, or especially.
They'll probably get out there and exercise the valve and kind of flush it out. Yeah.
That's where the hydrant valve on the ground, and then the actually, the opening valve.
Right, yeah. Each fire hydrant has its own isolation valve that's attached to the water main out in the street. So they'll open and close that guy, and then they'll probably open and close the hydrants just to flow some water out of them. Just take a look at their physical appearance and lots of times, the hydrants are old enough that we're replacing them. Each year we get, anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000 to reinvest in some of the newer hydrants that are newest standard. And so if it's an older hydrant, we'll go out there and replace it as well, if it's time to replace it.
Where's the isolation valve? Is it on the physical?
No, it's actually either in the street or between the street and where the fire hydrant is located. You'll see a valve box in the street, and that's an isolation valve for the hydrant.
So they gotta go and take that.
They
In case
can,
of fire, they got.
If you,
No.
if it gets hit with a car,
yeah,
that's what you shut the water with.
Okay, so.
So you have to go under the water
It's normally.
on you.
well, a lot of our hydrants now have the check valve in them, right? So they've
Yeah.
got that break off valve, so if it gets knocked off, the valve closes and hopefully you're not wasting, but not all of our hydrants have that. So,
Yeah, that's the dry barrel though.
Yeah,
only.
yeah.
The wet barrel does not have that.
Yeah,
But some of them don't have that, and some of them, the one in my neighborhood that somebody ran into a month or so ago, it basically broke it off at the elbow underneath, enough that the water was spewing all over the place. And Chris had to go out there and replace the whole assembly.
yeah, that'll happen, yeah.
It's a lot of money.
My one other question was, towards the bottom of that page, 78 mentions the type of disinfection compound in use. Is that a different disinfection?
No, the SFPUC uses chloramines, and so the chloramines is ammonia with the chlorine, and so when the water starts getting warmer in the summer and the fall, the chlorine compound just starts, as water ages in the system, it starts kind of breaking apart, and you can get these nitrogen compounds that can cause nitrification in your system, and it's just a pain in the butt. You start losing chlorine residual, you have water quality issues. And so we've had them a couple of times here since I've been here. And so the guys have been trying really hard to stay on top of it. We keep an eye on the chlorine residuals in our tanks and in different places throughout the system when we're out sampling every week. And when they start seeing that the chlorine residuals starting to drop, and they can also check for these chlorine compounds in there, then it's kind of a warning sign. And so we've been out doing a lot of flushing, to try and move water, to keep fresher water in there and get rid of some of that water that's been in the system a long time. Because again, we're trying to conserve water. I mean, it's a two-edged sword, right? You want people to conserve water, but as the water sits in there a long time in the system, it starts getting stale and you start having water quality issues. So, we try and balance it by trying to get fresh water as much as we can. And we've got a lot of dead ends in our system, which is not good, right? You got a lot of stagnant water just going down to a dead end of the street, and it affects water quality. So I think we've got like over 90 dead ends. I've never seen so many, that's just the nature of, I think, the hills that we live in, and we just don't have a lot of, connections to keep the system looped, which would be probably the more
At
preferred.
the end, you usually have a hydrant or the end.
Usually hydrant, sometimes we'll have a little blow off out there, and we'll try just to flush the water, not real heavy streams, but just enough to, if there's any crud in the water, get that out of there. And then the guys will be checking the chlorine residuals to see what it was when they started, and then see what it's like a little bit later on. Try and get it right around 2 or greater, which is more typical of the SFPUC system, the chlorine residual.
Thanks.
Administrative Service Manager.
So Monique is not here, but I just wanted to highlight, thank you, Director Wheeler, for getting your sexual harassment prevention training done. Rena also finishes, and I know Brian, you're working on yours, so.
Yeah.
We should be caught up any second.
No questions? District Engineer.
Yeah, just a few updates here. The first of which is the Harbor Boulevard water main improvements. You've got 2 progress payments in your board packet. I went over progress payment number 5, which was the update last month. It didn't make it in the board packet, but I brought hard copies if I remember correctly. And so we just included it in here as well. But the focus this month was progress payment number 6. As of the last board meeting, C2R has completed the job, with the exception of, some detector loops. They've also been issued the punch list, and they're currently working on that. And then, progress payment number 6 also included some change orders in regards to switching out some meter box covers to make them more resilient. They were switched out to traffic rated steel covers. And then we're still negotiating, change order number 2, which is the, additional depth that the contractor had to install the pipe at to avoid sewer laterals. So we're negotiating with them on that, and then also on, with the county of San Mateo in regards to, their signal lines that the contractor hit unknowingly. So, that project hopefully should be wrapped up, next month if all the negotiations and everything go to plan. Some pretty nice photos in there of the slurry seal that, occurred on Harbor. I drove down Harbor tonight, but couldn't see much because it's dark. But all the striping looks decent. People drive fast on that road.
It's a 4-lane highway.
So, that's Harbor. Any questions on Harbor?
Were they really out there working on Thanksgiving Day?
I couldn't
The
couldn't
picture
tell you.
says
They-
that it was November 23rd, and I go, what?
Yeah, it shouldn't have been.
What if that date might be off? Was the
Yeah.
23rd Thanksgiving? I can't, well, the 21st, was that a Friday then?
No, it's
Or was
Thursday.
there? I,
It's my
I think that,
birthday, I noticed it.
you know what? I mean, the picture is stamped on the 23rd, so that seems kind of strange. Maybe the camera, date is off, by a day or two, but that's a good observation. I'll have to ask, our engineer, or Vic, yeah.
Victor, yeah, I'll have to ask him. I don't.
Maybe his dates.
I hope we're not paying overtime.
No, we wouldn't have done that. No,
No,
would have been no reason for it.
yeah, so the other thing that we do, once a year around this time is to, provide the district and the board a comparison of the water rates for the 5/8 meter. So this is just more informational, for the board, nothing really to say, provide updates on that. And then the DeKalb, Lincoln and Oak Knoll project. The Division of Drinking Water still has our 95, or not ours, but, the consultants, design consultants, 95% plan. It's been a couple months since they've submitted. We have not heard, or received any comments from them. And so that project is essentially on hold until we get any comments back, from the Division of Drinking Water. And then Rena.
Yeah, I'll talk about the old county. So the contractor was issued notice to proceed on November 6th, and they've been working at night from 9 PM to 5 AM. Mainly on Ralston here from Elmer to Old County Road, and they've come down now Old County Road, and they're near Waltermeyer now. You'll see from the report, that they've started replacing the piping from that particular part of it. They've, went out before the project started and, talked to 500, not 500, they issued 500 informational flyers. So I mean, Forley, who is our contract consultant for construction management and construction inspection, along with Michael Anderson, went and just talked to all the neighbors and just say, hey, we're gonna be working here. And I think the only issue that we've had is the Unocal station next door, the owner there. I spoke to him, he wasn't happy because, they were doing the work out in front there at the corner of, Ralston and Old County Road. And then there was a replacement of a valve box in one of his driveways on Ralston. He said it was affecting his traffic, flow into the store. And that the contractor was maybe working a little bit later than he was supposed to. And I was explaining to him that we had to get the work done and, we have the ability to work in the right of way, those types of things. And they're past him now. And so I can only suspect that we might have some more questions or concerns with the business. But that's part of the reason why we wanted to do the work at night, because there just been no way that we wouldn't have had a lot of interference of, people's businesses if they're trying to do the work on Old County Road during the day. And the other thing I'll point out here too, is you'll see on page 105, the bottom change order, we've had 12 extra work requests. Old County Road is just filled with a lot of buried things that we paid or gave extra budget to Shop and Wheeler to do potholing there just to try and find things there. And even as much work as they did, the contractor's just still finding things in there. And so, Four Leaf is negotiating with them, as to what it is and if it's really, there and that type of thing. But just don't be surprised if this particular project, the number of change orders we have, it kind of gets near that 10% level, just because Old County Road is just very busy underground, But the project, the guys are about 3 weeks ahead of schedule. And because of that, they asked if they could have the time off between Christmas and I think the 6th of January, which is the Friday before. And we said that we were okay with that, because they are ahead and they're making good progress. We haven't had any complaints from the city of Belmont, because they're concerned about, the streets and so on. And so it's been, a good project so far. But I think, once we start getting into a narrower part of Old County Road, we'll see, how it goes there, But the work's gonna continue at night. It just seemed to make the most sense. Any questions?
Yeah. Page 84, state is sitting on our submittal. Is it long enough that it's a problem? Should we complain? Would complaining do any good? Make things worse?
Yeah, I mean, the Division of Drinking Water can be hit or miss. What I can do is follow up with our design engineer, who's helping coordinate this, we're doing plan check for, who's the designer on this? Is it?
It's Mott McDonald.
McDonald.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for something to take this long. It's not ideal. But I know that, I'm pretty sure Mott McDonald's is probably reaching out. I don't know if the district has any information, but I'm not directly involved with this project, but on my projects, this isn't uncommon. Depends on who's there at the time and who gets the request for the review.
Yeah.
Some jurisdictions, depending on where it goes to, a lot more efficient than others. But that's something we could definitely reach out to Mott McDonald to see how the progress is going on that.
Yeah, I don't remember the reasons they were given, but they have pinged DPW a couple of times. I don't remember those.
It has to do with the separation of the water main that we're proposing to build and the existing utility, especially storm or sewer. And, depending on the street is, because you're talking to Coburn or Oakland or Newland or Lincoln, some of the streets can be kind of narrow and they're already, clustered with the existing utilities. And I suspect that what Mott McDonald is proposing is a separation that's closer than 10 foot is what the state would like to see. And so they're still reviewing, we run into this issue before, with the state. It's not unusual, and so I think Mott McDonald maybe I think they proposed some alternatives to the state, but they're probably waiting to hear back. And sometimes the state does drag their feet. Their engineers can be slow at times. Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, I guess we need something from them, so maybe we can't complain too loud.
I mean, the last time, they said that, we were able to show them that we couldn't have that 10-foot separation, they just kind of turned a blind eye and said, well, you guys do what you gotta do. And we're talking with other agencies up and down the region here, and they said, yeah, we have the same kind of issue, and they just kind of, they want to see, and they want to push you and pressure you as much as they can to get that 10 foot of separation, but they also are, you know, they're realistic, you know, there are gonna be cases where you can't. There are things you can do to the way you construct it, try and mitigate any potential contamination. And that's what we try to do, you know, and they just say, hey, we're just gonna turn a blind eye and you guys do what you gotta do. I don't know, Matt, if you guys run into a similar situation with DDW,
Yeah,
you know.
but I mean, Eric Lacy retired, man,
Yeah.
taking over, they have transitional leadership over there.
They've had that too, yeah.
Okay, second, Juven, I think he said he'd be able to send us that robot video that you were talking about.
Oh, yeah,
What's-
Did that go out? Did I
I
miss
thought
it?
he said he had the water main assessment, the Pure
Oh.
Technologies robot.
Coming up from the tunnels. so-
Yeah, I thought he said he had,
Did
Brian.
he send it?
I thought
Maybe
we
I-
got an email.
I can follow up, with Juven
I
and see.
think,
if he's-
yeah, I think we better.
Okay, I probably missed it.
Okay.
All right, great. And then my last thing was, the cost, comparison, which I think is kind of interesting. I don't know if we should spend more time with that. I kind of feel that it's relevant to how well we're doing as an agency. We're comparing ourselves to our colleagues out there.
But you always do, because you wanna have that asset, because that's what people are gonna be looking at.
Yeah, we do not want to be at the top.
No,
So thank God for town of Hillsborough.
I'm surprised nobody's taken over, because it's traditionally been helpful.
we're very happy because that doesn't.
I guess, one question just to clarify, was this based on every town, everyone using the same amount of use? In other words, not the average use for each town, but the single average use.
5 CCF, 10 CCF.
Okay. And, so like page 103 says annual average and winter usage. Is one of these annual and one of these is winter?
Yeah, yes, kind of, I myself, when I saw this, is somewhat confusing. Well, I see two dates here. I see November 2023 and I see January 2023. So I would have to get that clarified, with our in-house engineer who did this, put this together.
I looked at the title, the fourth row of the title says annual, I don't know, I'm assuming it's in order presented vertically. You have 6.5 and 5 CCF for the two consumptions, and then on the other one, yeah, I'm guessing it was 8 and 10. That's how I interpret it. I don't know if that's the way it's meant to be.
Because the other one is just summer, it's not annual and winter, but it's also two graphs on page 104.
Right,
Just like
and
page
so
103.
you've got 10 CCF, and I got 10 CCF, I assume the upper chart, 8 CCF, the lower chart.
And why are they different?
Because that's a different consumption, it's 100 cubic feet. CCF is 100 cubic feet.
But both of them, one is for 10 CCF and one is for 8 CCF?
Yeah, so
Why
your
is
bill
one
would be
for-
less if you use 8 CCF in a month as opposed to using 10 CCF in a month.
Oh, so it's just like,
Yes.
let's assume it's 10,
Exactly.
here it is, let's assume it's 8.
Yes.
For some reason, we're assuming different.
Yeah, and I think the reason for doing it at that different level is everyone has a different kind of tiered rate structure, so
Oh,
depending on
okay.
where your tier breaks, for what city, it could have different impacts, so.
Okay.
You see what
And
I'm
then
saying?
I'll just say my vague recollection compared to before is, at least on one of these, we're creeping up. We're fourth from the top, on page 104 at the top. I tend to recall us being more in the middle in those cases. So something to watch.
Yeah, and I think that's the higher tier usage, which we have pretty aggressive tiered structure. We're middle and the lower usage, so the 5 and the 8 and the 6.5 are right in the middle. So, and then we pretty sharply have just in the past jacked up the outer tiers.
Okay, that's fair. I like that.
I figured that you would favorably review that response.
One thing that we've noticed in doing our rate study is that our first residential tier is actually very tiny, it's, you know.
2 units.
Yeah, 2 units, so, yeah, the rate.
Before you start getting up.
Laughed at how tiny it was, so, we've taken a look at where those breaks should be and will be.
In the past, there's history behind that. We've had people that come in and complain about their water bill doubling, and it's because they went from 1 unit to 2 units in a month. And, you know, so there was, I Alter could name names, one of the previous board members, so I agree, but there's sort of that was a precedent around the two. I'm not going to keep it. But I remember a lot of conversations around that topic.
Yeah, but these two graphs in the bottom, they're a year old. The two on the top are from last month. And I'm noticing it because I know that Redwood City introduced the rate increases approved on the council this week. So,
Yeah, they won't go into effect until next July.
correct.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we can ask Juben to clarify, but the way I look at this, I think
A year old.
first page, both charts look at 5 CCF usage, and the top is as of November 2023, and then the bottom is as of January 2023, so everyone, or well, not everyone, but those that raised rates, it's reflected. And pretty much everyone got the SFPUC increase over that time frame too.
Well, you seem to, I thought Matt was saying top is annual and bottom is winter.
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is, I can bring this, back to our office, get clarification on how to interpret these graphs to provide extra, clarification for the board.
Okay.
I don't want to make any assumptions, and, I think our engineer Farragut to put this together will be able to answer that.
I mean, actually, my explanation made sense up until I saw the different dates.
Yeah,
The dates
so
kind of threw it.
I agree that this could be, cleared up a little bit here.
So tell Juben, we got all confused here.
Yes, I will.
Okay, well,
Thank
all
you.
these questions led to some clarification. I missed. All right, financial report.
You're up,
me.
James.
All right, let's get going, everybody. So, just kind of high level, we're ahead in our revenues. So we are approximately 49% of our, or 48% of our budget estimate. Our target is 42%. So we're definitely trending ahead of revenues. We'll see what happens when, all that water comes, when the water falls from the sky to mess up with the, consumption. But overall, we are trending above budget for revenues. And then as far as expenditures, we're actually trending below what we were expecting for expenditures. So for the year, again, we're expecting, if you were to smooth out, if the expenditures were supposed to be even throughout the entire year, which they generally are on average, we would be spending about 42% of our budget. And right now we're just shy of 37%. So what, the biggest revenue source, of course, is the water commodity charges of $5.2 million. So that definitely exceeds not just what our budget is, but it's also about $450,000 more than what we were at this point in time last year. The other piece I wanted to bring to your attention is the total interest revenue from all sources of $318,000. Now, that is 88% of our budget, but that's a significant portion of that is related to unrealized gains on investments that of about 146,000 that we have recognized so far. So when you factor that, when you build that out, so unrealized gains and losses are basically what does the market say that we can sell our investments as of November 30th, right? Which clearly we didn't sell our investments on November 30th. So when you back that assumption out, our interest revenue is about 48%. So we're actually are trending higher, which means our investments are performing better than what we had expected. Combining salaries and wages and payroll taxes is about $1.2 million. Again, it's lower than what we had expected at 32%. And the only thing that's really trending higher in the expenditure piece is purchased water, which is about 49%, which again matches up with the water commodity charges. Let's see here on the next page, we have just kind of the trend for the water commodity charges of what we spent so far versus our budget. In the table below that, you'll see our projected charges and how they tend to drop, over these winter months. And we are still trending higher than where we've been in the past. So We're expected to drop again in December, January, February, and then it's gonna start rising again a little bit. So right now, we are definitely trending a little bit higher than what we normally would. That next page is just our regular statement of net position. So here you'll see we have about $40 million of net position or equity position, which is our assets and deferred outflows are greater than our liabilities and deferred inflows. And that mainly is comprised of capital assets, net of, the long-term portion or net of the COPs. So the remaining $13.7 million we've got available for not everyday use, but, to pull from. So, and that does include restricted resources as well. On the next page, we've got, of course, the budget to actual that I was just talking about. So this is where you'll see kind of our target and all the different sections separated by, as compared to the target. So here you'll see our water commodity charges, are 49%. But then you'll see also water system capacity charges are at 0, whereas last year at this time they were about $1.5 million. Those are pretty much one-time revenues that we get. You'll see everything, just all the expenditures with the exception of purchased water, just kind of be lower than what we expected. So we're doing a really good job about managing those costs. And then the next page, we've got, of course, the investment and reserves report. So we have total unrealized gains and losses in our Zions bank account of 145,000 that I was talking about earlier. We also have earned about 152,000 in just interest payments that we have recorded. And those are in our account. They're actual real dollars that are available to spend. Any questions? Nathan?
No.
Thanks for adding the past year actuals to the graph on 117. Self-aligned, right?
Yeah. And I think that was it in my board packet we have the CIP. So far, the funding for the CIPs that we've, how we're comparing to the COP funds. So, and how much we've got left to spend, and then what our capital outlay projects are still remaining. And that's about it.
That's it. Great.
A lot of financial information, but yeah.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Looking.
Seeing no questions, we'll move on. Item 8C, Director reports. Director Schmidt.
Director Schmidt, got a new job.
So I heard. No, I heard about generally, but no one's voted under.
Okay, I'm executive director of Menlo Spark. I'm the new Diane Bailey, and who Matt knows, I believe. So, it's a small nonprofit that is working on trying to help Menlo Park achieve its goal of becoming climate neutral by 2030, which is extremely aggressive goal.
Really
Very aggressive goal.
Awesome.
I'm not gonna say we can't do it.
So you got 6 years.
Yeah. I started earlier this month.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got one employee, so it's somewhat grandiose to call me ED, especially when she knows absolutely what she's doing. She doesn't need my help at all. But
Well, that's the executive part. That means you don't have to, you're not directing anything. You're just being an executive.
yeah. One thing I was concerned about is this dealing with a lot of electricity, energy stuff, potentially Peninsula Clean Energy. And their board meeting is the same time as ours. So I did discuss that with the folks hiring me, and they do not see it as important that I attend the PCE board meeting. So I will monitor that. Maybe every once in a while I might need to miss a meeting, but
So they have it on the same Thursday of the month at the same time.
fourth Thursday. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that.
Yeah. But my board doesn't seem to think that's an issue. So we'll see what happens with that. Thank you.
Your board is separate from the city council?
Yeah, this is a nonprofit.
No, okay.
Yeah, it's actually part of a larger nonprofit that sponsors smaller ones. So that means, so I don't have to do a lot of the bookkeeping and stuff, which is great.
But it works under the city auspices, or how do you interact with city council and all that?
We nudge them. Yeah, we're trying to, the other thing we've done is worked to lobby to get funding for the city to do climate neutral stuff, including we got $4.5 million from the California Energy Commission to electrify low income homes in the city Menlo Park. So
Good, because I know there's a person on the Bosco board who is a city council member of Menlo Park. She doesn't need a lot of nudging, I told you that, you know.
okay, good,
She's probably on your side big time.
great. Yeah, they seem that there's a lot of energy there. So
Well, if you want to talk to anybody in Palo Alto that does the resource planning, let me know, because Palo Alto's been carbon neutral for about 10 years now by buying power, hydro, geothermal, and then they invest in all kinds of like green offsets for the gas system. So neutral is net, obviously.
Yeah.
We're still running a gas system.
yeah,
There's a whole portfolio magic set up around that, so.
yeah. And to clarify, we mean the entire city, not the city
Not just the
government,
city government, okay.
the entire city.
Yeah, we're not there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but by the time you're done with this meeting, you'll have your job all done.
Yeah.
People know people all the time.
That's right, that's right. No, I was asking Kat about water there, some interesting stuff there. So I had no idea they had municipal water
Yeah.
retailer there. I didn't know that.
It's through retailers.
Isn't there Cal Water?
The tiny O'Connor Track Municipal.
Oh, it's that little, oh, yeah.
Like 300 connections.
And don't they have wells too?
I believe that one
They
does.
co-opt us.
Yeah, okay. But I know it's fun.
And
Cool.
so my other thing is I have show and tell. Although I don't have much to tell at this point, but I took this out from the Redwood City Library,
I saw that.
Home Energy and Water Saving Toolkit.
Ah.
I barely opened it up. I think it's more about electricity, but there are some stuff for measuring your water and stuff like that. So I need to use it and then I can report back as to whether there's anything any good with it. And if it is, I'm gonna find out if Belmont Library has one.
Maybe we can create a toolkit for people to come and check out, see if they have a leak.
Yeah, well, we already have that. We
Yeah.
just-
The water meter.
Yeah.
Please don't believe it.
Check it out, home energy and water saving tool.
Yeah, you can borrow almost anything from the library these days. So I'll let y'all know how this.
Yes, cool.
There, that ends my show and tell.
Nice, great show and tell, congratulations.
Yeah,
Louis,
I don't have a show and tell.
no?
Yeah, no.
All right.
I had the board policy committee meeting yesterday. And I told you a little bit about that. That was an experience to go live. And I attended the HIN meeting
And two finance committee meetings.
and two finance committee meeting and an agenda meeting. So,
Aren't you glad you're not gonna be president? You have to
Yes.
skip one meeting?
no, I'm glad we have met as a president.
Right.
Thank you, I'll take that as a compliment, not that you're disappointed because you're doing less work. Director Wheeler.
Been there, done that, come on.
Director Wheeler.
Yeah, so I had the, two finance committee meetings. I also went to HIA. They were talking about their land use plans for the northeast area for San Carlos and the HIA area. And so Belmont and San Carlos are trying to figure out what their master plan is going to look like. Now, apparently they got a fair amount of pushback on some of the proposals for their land use concepts.
Well,
Because there are some outstanding issues that some of the property owners are not happy about, like, you're going to put a public street through the middle of my property? type of thing, because they need more traffic interconnection in parts of San Carlos, in the industrial area. And a number of people were concerned about their plan for Belmont Creek, because that's all privately owned. And it's split between, I don't know, it must be a dozen property owners. And they have these grandiose plans that they're going to have people set back 50 feet from the creek. And it's going to be a pathway as well as flood conveyance.
The new Guadalupe,
Yes.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of dreams, but it's unclear exactly how they're going to get to actual land use concepts. Because they can't really zone some of this stuff, type of thing. So they're going to get more, what do you want to call it? Conceptual alternatives as they move forward, but they're on a fairly tight time frame.
Their schedule's already slipped.
Yes,
For better or worse, because we're tracking to, you know, because we're gonna have to do water supply assessments for them, so we had anticipated doing maybe, you know, January, February timeframe, but now it's looking like next fall, so we just keep tracking and till there's something real enough to analyze.
but it also affects our Dairy Lane project and so on, so. We don't know what that's going to mean. They're saying that they're getting some help from the one shoreline people as far as the creek. But it didn't sound like they were getting a whole lot of help. And they can't really get their 10-year level of protection until they get it past the Caltrains culverts and into the slough downstream type of thing. So they have issues. And everybody's going, well, where's the money gonna come from?
Yeah.
And the property, well, I guess he's actually a real estate person who manages HIA and so on, is basically, oh yeah, well, we'll just get a couple of dollars a square foot on all this new biotech land, biotech buildings, and we're gonna have millions of dollars that San Carlos can use to fix up some of this stuff. But that's the other side of the coin. So we'll see. But it was interesting.
anything else?
RGM, you have a presentation about water situation for the inside meeting. That was good.
Kathy?
The only thing, I went to the city council reorg, just as a citizen, it was led the Pledge of Allegiance. And then I just wanted to bring up, I had reported back several months ago, I went to the San Mateo County Progress Seminar back in April. So registration did open up last week and it does sell out. So if anyone else is interested in joining, Monique, she registered me for the conference, but I mean, it's like 1.5 days and I think it's time well spent, at least just really promoting our district and the great things that we do. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people in San Mateo County have no idea who we are. So, yeah, I'll be going again, but if anody else wants to go, I highly encourage attendance. It was.
She did anything else? She did, yeah, okay. Monique sent an email on the registration.
Oh, yeah, she did, yeah. She did.
And I signed up, I'm registered to go, so there'll be at least two of us,
Okay.
telling people who we are.
Good.
That's it.
I don't really have anything to report other than, I will just, I have been gearing up to start planning for the school sampling next year under the lead and copper rule revisions. I don't know if you guys saw, but the lead and copper rule improvements came out in draft December 6th. You got another 2 years on school sampling, you don't have to do it. So there's a reprieve on school sampling for lead under federal. Which given that there's 46 schools that I have to sample in Palo Alto, I'm not unhappy about that. So I just thought I'd toss it out there. It's hidden on page like 175 of 220 pages of regulation. And none of the summaries that EPA wrote talked about delaying the school sample. I understand why. They don't want to highlight that, but, anyway. That is all I have. Communication. Nothing. The second most important item of the evening.
No closed session, that's.
No closed session.
That's all I know.